Alright, hello math fans. I'm actually going to do all of Worksheet 4 with you. Okay, so hopefully you've done this already and you're just checking your answers, but I'm going to explain every single type of problem. There are a lot of different problems, 39 problems, and it basically is division of exponents, and things get a little more complicated as you move on, but hopefully you have this all done, you're just going to check it. So some of the beginning ones, so I'm just going to write here, key. Alright, some of the beginning ones are easy. Remember, it's just a battle. It's x to the 8th over x to the 5th. You can subtract or you can do battle. The north wins by 3, so the answer to this problem is x to the 3rd. Okay, this one, the south wins by 3. Or you could say 5 minus 8 is negative 3, which is just 1 over x cubed. Okay, but again, you could have said the bottom wins by 3 and you have 1 over x cubed. This one is equal to 1 because you could subtract and say x to the 0. Anything to the 0 power is 1, or you can just say you have the same top and the same bottom, so it's equal to 1. Pretty easy. Okay, the next one, I'm going to deal with the numbers separately, so that's going to be 2 goes into 4 twice, 2 goes into 10 5 times, so I have 2, and then if I battle, the bottom wins with the x's by 6, so 2 over 5x to the 6th. Okay. Same thing with this. That's going to be a 1. That's going to be a 4. So it's going to be the north wins by 9. So it's going to be x to the 9th over 4. Okay, so this one, 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 12 3 times. The x's cancel because they're both the same. So my answer is just 1/3. Okay, so let's move on to the next one here. Just a little bit more work, not too big of a deal here. I'm just going to do a bunch of battles between the x's, y's, and z's. Okay, that's pretty easy. So I'm just going to draw my fraction. The x's, the south wins by 6. The y's actually just cancel because they're both y to the 6, and the north wins by 6 z's. So that's my answer. All right, same thing. Do a battle. The south wins by 6. There's the south wins with the y's by 2, and there's no battle with the 12 with the z's. So the z is just on top. So z to the 12th over x to the 6th, y to the 2nd. Okay, next one. Cancel the numbers. So that's going to be a 5 and a 7. And let me write that in there. And you have a battle. X south wins by 1, and don't write x to the 1, it's just x. The north wins by 1, or the north for the y wins by 1, so it's just y. And the z, remember that's z to the 1, so the south wins by 11, and that's your answer. Okay. This one, pretty easy. Negative exponent just moves to the top of the fraction, so you just have x to the 5th power. This guy here moves to the top of the fraction, and you just have x to the 3rd. I'll show my work here. X to the 3rd times x to the 7th, which is just x to the 10th. Okay, this one goes to the bottom, so it's 1 over x to the 13th, because it's 6 plus 7. Okay, this one they flip, right? They switch around. So you have x to the 9th on top and x to the 7th on the bottom. And then you do battle, and you get x squared. Same thing with this. X squared on top, x to the 8th on the bottom. You do battle, the bottom wins by 6. So it's 1 over x to the 6th. This one, I don't even have to flip them over. I can say x to the 12th over x to the 12th, but it's the same thing. So I know that's equal to 1. Or you could have done it mathematically and say negative 12 minus a negative 12. That gives me x to the 0 power, which equals 1. Okay, so far so good. Okay, number 16, remember, don't cross the 2's off. Treat it just like a variable. So if I have a battle between the 2's, the north wins by 3, so it's 2 to the 3rd power. Don't leave exponents with variables or with numbers, so 2 cubed is 8. Same thing with this one. The south wins by 2, so 3 squared, so you get 1/9. This one, that -4 goes to the bottom, so it's 1 over 2, and it goes to the bottom, so it becomes 2 to the 6th power. And if you got to do 2 to the 6th in your calculator, it's fine. So the answer is 1 over 64. And again, don't do 1 over 2 to the 6th in your calculator. Do 2 to the 6th in your calculator, because again, I don't want any I want all fractions. I don't want any decimal places or decimal answers. Okay, this is pretty important. Okay, this one a little more complicated. Let's deal with the numbers. So it's 1/3. So I have 1/3, and then let's deal with the negative exponents. Anything with a negative moves to the other side of the fraction. So it's x to the 10th and y to the 7th there. I'm sorry, x to the 7th, and then the y's, this guy right here moves to the top, so it's y to the 11th. And the z's, we could battle now if you want and just say the bottom wins by 3. That's fine. Okay, because we still have to battle though. I'm going to get rid of this 1 because I don't need it. And I have a battle between the x's, and the north wins by 3. So x cubed, y to the 11th over 3z cubed. Okay. Same thing with this guy here. That's going to be 4 goes in 12 3 times, and that goes in 2 times. And we just have a nice little battle here. 3 halves. It's x to the 6th doing a battle. This one, y to the 0, that's really the same thing as 1. You could still battle, and who wins? The bottom wins by 5. So it's y to the 5th. And that negative exponent goes to the bottom. So it's z to the 12th. And that's your answer. 3x to the 6th. Right there. Don't let that 2 get in the way. 3x to the 6th times 2y to the 5th, z to the 12th. All right. Next guy here, can't cancel anything with the 7 and 17, so that's going to stay where it's at. And the negative goes to the top, so we have x to the 11th. The y's just cancel because they're both y to the 4th, or negative 4th. And the z, the -3 goes to the bottom, and I have z to the 9th. And that's actually your final answer. All right. So, again, it's just canceling, just a little more practice here. And there's nothing to cancel with the 5, so the 5 is going to stay on the bottom. X goes to the bottom, so it's x to the 6th in the bottom. The y goes to the top, the -7, so it's y to the 15th. And remember, this is z to the 1 on the bottom, z to the 0 on top, so the 1 obviously wins. And actually, that's not even there. Okay, and that's your answer. Y to the 15th over 5x to the 6th, z. Okay, so more negative exponents. That's going to be a 6 and a 5. And so there's actually nothing to battle with the x. So I'm going to move the x on top. X to the 5th. And we can battle, or the y's, right? We have y to the 6th on top and y to the 4th on the bottom. Same thing with the z's. That's z to the 6th on top and z cubed on the bottom. So I moved all my negative exponents to the appropriate places. And my last step is I do battle. So it's x to the 5th. Do battle with the y's. It's y squared. Do battle with the z's, and that's z cubed. So that's your answer. 6x to the 5th, y squared, z cubed over 5. Okay, the next one, we're basically distributing that 3, that cubed, so it's x to the 4th cubed over y to the 6th cubed. So it's x to the 12th over y to the 18th. Okay, when you're doing these problems, remember you want to simplify first and then raise to the 6th power. Otherwise, you're raising everything to the 6th power, and then you have to simplify anyway. So let's just do it ahead of time. So we have x squared. We do battle, and the north wins there. Y to the 5th on the bottom. South wins there, and z cubed. That wins on top, and that's to the 6th power. So everything's to the sixth. So it's going to be x squared to the sixth, z cubed to the sixth, y to the fifth to the sixth. Okay, so that just gives us x to the 12th, z to the 18th, over y to the 30th. All right, not too bad. 26, again, looks a little nasty, but we're just going to simplify inside. So it's going to be x to the 8th on the bottom, and y to the 13th on the bottom, and the z's cancel. That's pretty nice. So I need a number of 1 on top, and that's the 6th. So it's going to be, actually I don't need this parenthesis anymore. It's going to be 1 over x to the 8th, and then that's the 6th power, and y to the 13th, and that's to the 6th power. So it's going to be 1 over x to the 48, y to the 78th power. Okay, that's not too bad. Okay, the next one, remember I told you the little trick, if you have a negative exponent on the outside, you can just flip the whole fraction around. So that's the same thing as y cubed over x to the 5th to the positive 6th power. And then I raise everything to the 6th. So I'm just going to do it here. So 3 times 6, y to the 18th. 5 times 6, x to the 30th. That's my answer. All right. All right, number 28. Simplifying the inside, if you can, which I can. So that's just going to be x to the 5th to the negative 8th. And in this case, you can just multiply. So it's x to the negative 40th. And then that's 1 over x to the 40th. So remember, no negative exponents in your final answer. Okay, 29, I'm going to simplify first. So I get x to the 3rd on top. The bottom, I get y to the 13th. The negative exponent comes to the bottom, and the negative exponent for the z goes to the top, so z to the 17th power. And that's the negative 3rd power. Okay, so I've got everything simplified first, and then let's flip it around, because it's really y to the 13th over x cubed, z to the 17th to the positive 3rd power. And now we're just going to multiply. So it's y to the 39th over x to the 9th. Okay, x to the 9th, and z to the 51st power. Yeah, kind of big exponents, but that all worked out fine. Okay, so just again, make sure you simplify inside first, because if you do the simplifying inside first, it makes it a ton easier. Okay, let's move on to number 30. Same thing, I'm going to simplify the inside. And I get, well, that simplifies right off the bat, right? That's 1/3, so that's pretty nice. So 1/3, x to the 4th, y to the 8th on top, y to the 3rd on the bottom. The z battles, that gives us z to the 3rd on top to the negative 3. So you might want to leave a little bit of room. It looks like we're going to have to do a lot of stuff here. Okay, so one last thing I'm going to battle before we simplify, or that's our last step to simplify. So the y on north wins, so it's y to the 5th, z cubed over 3x to the 4th, and that's to the negative 3rd power. Okay, again, looks a little ugly. Okay, but then we're just going to flip it around. So it's going to be 3x to the fourth over y to the fifth, z to the third. And that's going to be to the positive third power. And then let's just cube everything. We're kind of running out of room, but it's 3 cubed is not 9, it's 27. And that's x to the 12th. And that's y to the 15th in the bottom. And z to the 9th. Okay, so that was probably one of the tougher problems. Just a lot of simplifying, but not too bad. Okay, so this one is, we've done these problems before where it's not, the whole thing is not cubed, it's just the top part. So let's simplify that. It's 2 cubed, which is 8, x to the fourth, which is x to the 12th, x to the fourth cubed is x to the 12th, over 16x cubed. And then you simplify that. Well, that's a 1 and a 2. So it's x, remember you do battle, so it's x to the 9th, and a 2 in the bottom. Okay, and that's your answer. Same thing, we're going to do this next one. 3 to the fourth power is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, so it's going to be 81. X to the 32nd over 9x cubed. So that's going to, 9 goes into 81, 9 times 9 goes to 9 once. And so we have 9, and then we do a battle. 32 wins, so it's 32 minus 3 is 29 over 1, or just 9x to the 29th power. Okay, so let's do this one. 10x to the 6th over 4 squared is 16. X to the 4th squared is x to the 8th. And that's going to be a 5 and an 8. So we have battle, and the south wins by 2, so 5 over 8x squared. Okay, and we have just a few more to go here. Okay, number 34, it's multiplication. So what I told you to do first is do the numbers first. So that's a 1, that's a 2, that's a 1, that's a 2. So the 2 actually, all that cancels out. So we have no numbers, we just have 1s left over, which is pretty sweet. Then we multiply everything straight across. So we're going to have x to the 7th. Remember to add your exponents when you're multiplying. Y to the 7th over x to the 9th, because remember that's x to the first power, and y to the 7th. Alright, and now you do battle. Well, the y's cancel, and the x's, the south wins by 2, so it's 1 over x squared. That's your answer. Not too bad. The next one, same thing with the numbers. Okay. Here's a 1, and this is a 4, and this 4 or 2 goes into 4 twice, and it's 1. All right, so that's all we can cancel. We can't do anything with the 4 and the 2 because they're on the same, they're both in the denominator. All right, and we just multiply straight across. So we have negative 3 plus 4, so it's x to the first power, y to the first power. On the bottom we have 8. X to the, remember it's a 1 here, so 1 minus 8 is x to the negative 7. Negative 5 minus 2 is y to the negative 7. So our last step is spies go home, right? So move to the negative 7s to the top. So you have x to the 8th, y to the 8th over 8. Alright, so let's do the same thing here. 7 goes 7 once, 7 goes into 21 3 times, 2 goes into 4 twice, 2 goes into 6 3 times, and then we have a 1 and a 1 there. So we just really have a 2 on the bottom. And let's multiply everything across. So negative 3 minus 2, it's x to the negative 5th. y to the 7th over 2, that's x, remember that's x to the 1, so it's x to the 9th, y to the negative 7th. Okay, and then the spies go home. So we have on the bottom 2 x to the 14th, and on the top we have y to the 14th. So there's y to the 14th over 2x to the 14th. Not too bad. Okay, now we have to actually do the exponents first, and then we multiply straight across. So that's going to be x to the 6th over y to the 12th. Remember, you multiply those exponents times 2 to the 4th power. So make sure everything gets raised to the 4th power. 2 to the 4th power is 16. Y to the 12th over x to the 20th. Okay, so we multiply it straight across. 16 x to the 6th, y to the 12th over x to the 20th, y to the 12th. And then our last step is battle. We have 16. The south wins for the x's by 14, so x to the 14th. And the y's just cancel because they're both y to the 12th. And that's my answer, 16 over x to the 14th. Okay, we're almost done here. 2 cubed is 8. X cubed is x to the 9th. And that's y to the 12th. 4 times 3. And then y squared is y to the 4th. 2 squared is 4. X to the 7th squared is y to the 14th. Or sorry, x to the 14th. Then you can cancel. This is back to like number 34, 35, 36. You can do the canceling. So it's 2. It's a 1. So we have 2x to the 9th, y to the 4th, over x to the 14th, y to the 12th. Then we do battle. And the south wins by 5. And the south wins for the y's by 8. So 2x to the 5th, y to the 8th. Okay, last problem. Again, just multiply it out. So it's 2 to the 6th power, which again, use your calculator, I don't care, but it's 64. Y to the 12th over x to the 24th. And that's times, now there's no exponent there, so there's no exponent, you just rewrite it. Y to the 4th over 2x cubed. And the 64 and the 2 cancel, so 2 goes in the 2 once, 2 goes in 64 32 times. So 32, and I'll combine these together, so it's y to the 16th over x to the 27th. Alright, and that's our final answer for that one. Okay, so that is the end of worksheet 4. Hopefully you got most of the problems right. If you made any mistakes, hopefully you'll learn from it, because that's pretty much every type of division of or using exponents. Alright, math fans, that's it. Have a nice day. Goodbye.